The following has absolutely nothing to do with the coronavirus epidemic. It's called Nation of Strangers. Back in the 1960s and 70s, Vance Packard was writing books of insightful sociological inquiry. Operating on a hunch, I bypassed a few of his more famous works and grabbed a copy of Nation of Strangers, his investigation of how an increasingly mobile society was destroying various aspects of community in America, and what effect that might have on both individuals and the society at large. It's a hell of a book. He's constantly framing questions like, is it essential to one's sense of well-being to have personal relationships? And how does uprootedness and social degradation affect one's behavior? The answer to that was one I wanted to know 50 years down the road. He studied many forms of transiency, including corporate transfers and shift work, pro-athletes, the military and academia, and retirees, as well as the connection between technology and mobility, high-tech nomads. He found mounting isolation and family fragmentation, pervasive rootlessness, the shattering of small group life, disruption of familiar patterns, and a deteriorating sense of well-being in individuals subjected to all of this. Some companies sprang up specifically to make the relocation process as painless as possible. They would seek out new developments that were like the one their client was leaving, what they called duplicate environments. This effort to be helpful led to a depressing, ubiquitous homogeneity. Housing, like the fast food franchises. One example he presented around Houston, River Oaks, was a prestigious address. So when they built new developments for incoming corporate managers and their families, they named them Enchanted Oaks, Whispering Oaks, Rustling Oaks, Candlelight Oaks, Garden Oaks, by the way, I'm not making this up, Nottingham Oaks, Knob Oaks, Shadow Oaks, Southern Oaks, West Oaks, Afton Oaks, White Oak Acres, and Forest Oaks. Forest was another key word, but I won't be tedious and list all of those so-named developments, created so the newcomers would feel right at home. They would be moving and not moving. Zombies. Several things struck me as I read the book. Packard said that one reaction to the rootlessness, isolation, and alienation was a hyperactive sociability, and that made me think immediately of Facebook. That might explain why so many people are almost desperately making so many posts. I'm here! I'm here! Also, as I read about the Nation of Strangers, I began to think about the writers at the time who wrote in the frame of fiction about the same phenomenon. Salinger certainly had his severely alienated characters. And John Cheever, especially in his many short stories, wrote about these people, hollowed out and looking for home. Kerouac was one of them, newly divorced and living on the road, making it sound fantastic, a great adventure, but also very sad and futile. And Nabokov, with Lolita, in his invention of Humbert, created perhaps the ultimate nomad, searching frantically for what he cannot find. And then there was Vance Packard himself, who did his own extensive research, constantly on the go, driving in rented cars, staying in motels, finding the pulse of cities and towns. In his quest to study the modern nomads, Packard became one of them himself. He countered this with family reunions on Martha's Vineyard. The main reason I read the book was to see if Packard might have found the seeds of our modern woe, the mass murder shooters and domestic terrorists. And he may have. He noted strange behaviors among some footloose people living in normless environments that threatens interpersonal chaos. That led to a lessening of concern for one's behavior, greediness, abrasiveness, unreasonableness, and promiscuity. He found that unconnected people were prone to malaise, mental disorders. Rootlessness meant anonymity, and that led to aggression, crimes against people. Also, these disaffected, alienated people might act out and attack the community that was failing them. They might also seek identity in another group, one that embraces them, and to strike back at the society that had abandoned them. I think we're still living in a nation of strangers, and it's one very dangerous place to be. We die not because they hate us, but because we represent something they've lost. They're hurt, and they want to hurt back. And also, they is us.